Recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has completed 12 years in office. Narendra Modi ji called it as a victory of the NDA government and the people's faith in the NDA government. This brings us to an important topic that can be used in our GS2 with regard to the performance of the government and what we called as political stability that is related to the government. How political stability affects the governance procedure, this needs to be understood, and we'll try to understand through this article. The Prime Minister Modi has also highlighted that the stability of the NDA highlights the matureness of the Indian public, how Indian public votes and what for they want to vote for. So let us understand what all the article was covering. The article was covering regarding the things that Prime Minister has highlighted, where the Prime Minister has framed discontinuity as a public choice, and this has been done to basically enable deep reforms and rapid development of the economy. Now this is 100% correct. Whenever a stable government comes in, whenever the government has the majority, it is not falling into the coalition clutches. There is no event of policy paralysis. It brings a sense of predictability and it eases out the reform. So in the last 12 years, we have seen tremendous political stability which was not seen since 1989. Since 1989 till 2014, we were in the coalition era. Today also we are in a coalition era, but that coalition is much more stronger. So what has happened, because of the much needed political stability, the growth of the country has been promised. And the future perspective that has been highlighted is that continuity is like a mandate that basically resonates the choice of the people. It creates a reform runway so that the long-term reforms can be generated. It creates an economy of self-reliance, how the economic progress can take place, and that of what is the long term of the vision of the government in 2047, which Narendra Modi ji calls as Viksit Bharat. So this is the areas that are being highlighted under this article that was there. And this is very important. But let us understand what is political stability. Political stability is what? Political stability is the ability of the government to remain functional, predictable and effective over time. It is just this stability. And this stability is important for the purpose of structural reform, implementation and long-term nation building that actually happens during this time period. And the stability ensures that there is also accountability. So not only there is stability, there is also accountability. Why there is accountability? Because the elections are held and people have reshown their faith with the Modi government. So this also highlights the accountability. And also at the same time, when the same government is repeated over the years, the long-term structural reforms or the behavioral change that is required through what we call as policies is also seen, which basically ensures continuity. I can give you one personal example of me. For example, when Narendra Modi ji first took into the government, he launched a program which is known as Swachh Bharat Mission. Now we can debate whole around what is the status of Swachh Bharat Mission, what are the problems. Every policies have problems, every government has problem. But I can give you assurance that the Swachh Bharat Mission has introduced a change. A structural change has been introduced in the behavior. A attitudinal change has been introduced in the behavior of the people. Policies can be implemented very easily. Policies can be implemented by force. But to bring down a structural change, a attitudinal change is a thing which is commendable. And this government is commendable for that thing. So they have bring in the long-term continuity that is needed for long-term economic reforms, structural reforms, removing red tapeism, and also at the same time behavioral change, where basically people transform their nature from subjects to citizens. So now we are the citizens rather than just being the subjects of the governance. Now, what are the reasons that basically is strengthened through this stability? What are the things that get strengthened through this stability? So the first thing is political continuity. Political continuity is ensured, long-term reforms can be initiated, stable government ensures that the coalition pressures are not there. So this basically is leading to a continuity in the policies. Because policies need some policies, suppose policies regarding education or health, These cannot generate, these are not like switchboards that we can switch off the light and then the reform will happen in a day. These reforms takes years to take place. If someone enters into school tomorrow, it will take at least 12 to 15 years of his or her life to generate any kind of positive result. And what do we need? That these policies should be continued for the next 12 to 15 years. And that is why the stability in the government basically ensures political continuity. It also decreases the policy paralysis, a thing which was very common in the UPA regime. In UPA regime, it was very common that there was policy paralysis because UPA was a coalition. And whenever they used to take any hard decision, one or the other coalition partners were basically able to or threatening to withdraw their support from the government. What it was leading to, the Indian government was not able to do structural reforms. One such bill I remember from my lifetime also, that is land acquisition bill. And the World Bank report highlighted that the delays that the UPA witnessed in passing of land acquisition bill, it led to a total loss of $100 billion to the government. $100 billion of government loss was attributed to the delays on the parts of land acquisition bill, which was delayed due to the policy paralysis under the UPA. So we have what we call as less decision paralysis. Then it creates a reform architecture because the reform can be initiated at the groundest level, and this reform can be initiated at the level of political strategy or for the level of bureaucracy and also at the level of public, which we have given the example of Swachh Bharat mission. Then it will improve the administrative efficiency. How it will improve the administrative efficiency? Whenever the political executive will be very weak, permanent executive will become strong and permanent executive will try to dominate. This is a normal tendency because the permanent executive are there to survive. And if the political executive is indecisive or not very powerful, then the permanent executive who are not elected, who do not reflect the will of the people, who are sitting there by clearing an examination, will try to dominate. But whenever the political executive will be strong, it reflects the will of the people, it is responsible to the people, and the permanent executive will perform their constitutionally mandated role, that is to support the political executive. So another thing is that it will improve the administrative efficiency. As highlighted, a bureaucracy that performs under clear and predictable direction performs better. The next thing is that of economic confidence, and this I'll showcase you to an example also. The investor confidence during the Prime Minister Modi regime has increased. Business needs stability, and stability is attributed to the stable government. So when the political environment of the country is stable, the countries all over the world will try to put in their money into India. And this has also happened during the Modi's regime. Prime Minister Modi's have been able to provide the much needed stability, and stability has been investing, or basically it has been gaining the investor sentiments, and people have invested heavily into India. I'll give you an example also later on. And then the national security becomes a key priority because a strong, stable leadership also boosts our national security, because the country or the government can pursue with the national interest without worrying about the support from the coalition partners. So what we have seen, that long-term policy continuity has been ensured. Prime Minister Narendra Modi government has been able to implement some of the most drastic reforms that were very difficult to be implemented, like that of implementation of GST, direct benefit transfer to the people, insolvency and bankruptcy code, Bharatmala and Gati Shakti corridors, defense modernization and Indianization. These are the reforms that were not possible if there was not a strong government. The UPA government has also tried to implement GST, but they were not able to do it because of the coalition pressure. It was implemented finally by Narendra Modi's government. So this has what has been the major political developments that we have seen in the Narendra Modi's government. Some of the policies that required the majority has been achieved by Narendra Modi's government. The second is that of reduced decision paralysis. So there is no use of veto politics or political delays that ultimately harms India's economic and security interests. So there is no delays, there is no coalition dynamics, there is no coalition pressures. So basically the things are taken, or the decisions are taken with the interest of nation in mind, not with the nation of politics in mind. So national interest dominates what we call as narrow political interest of political parties or the coalition. So national interest dominates the political party's interest or the coalition interest. This is what we need, and this is what we have seen in the last 12 years of Narendra Modi's rule. Then this is a better reform architecture. A better reform architecture is also present because the policy formulation level, implementation level, and institution level, consolidation level, at all the three levels, better structural reforms can happen because the government has the stability to introduce the reform, to follow the reform, and to generate or reap the benefits of the reform in this time frame of 12-year period. So this is also a very good thing that has happened in the last 12 years. Then administrative efficiency has increased. It has been said by Max Weber. This quote is that of Max Weber. He has highlighted that rational legal bureaucracy works best when authority structures stay stable and predictable. So what has been done, we have explained this point earlier also, whenever the political executive is strong and stable, the permanent executive performs its constitutionally assigned role, that is to help the political executive and not to basically create a parallel system of power. So a clear political executive, a stable government provides the much needed leadership that is required to guide the permanent executive. Then I have told you about, I'll give you the example of investor confidence. Let me give you the example of investor confidence, how it has improved. So how it has improved, what is the FDI investment? So for example, FDI investment during the era of UPA, it was between 2004 and 2014, it was around $85 billion. It was around $80 to $85 billion of FDI investment were there during 2004 to 2014. And how it has increased? It has increased to the tune of $165 billion. $165 billion between 2014 to 2024. So what does it highlight? That there is nearly a twofold increase in the investor confidence and the investor money that is flowing into India during the present regime. So this has been a massive development. Manufacturing has also been taking a progress. Though the progress can be debated, there are some schemes that are not performing very well, but the progress is there. PLI link incentives, Skill India mission, various missions have been launched by the government of India. Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. So these schemes have been launched by government of India to promote domestic manufacturing, and the manufacturing boost will provide the much needed job boost. Infrastructure is a place where the President Narendra Modi's government particularly stand out. Infrastructure, the annual spending on infrastructure under the UPA regime was close to 2 lakh crore rupees per year. 2 lakh crore rupees per year was the spending on infrastructure during the UPA regime. And this has now increased to what we called as 12 lakh crore rupees per year. 12 lakh crore rupees per year. So there has been a massive increase in the infrastructure front, and you can also witness this infrastructural development whenever you step on a highway. So what we have seen, that infrastructure has gained a massive push. The spending on infrastructure has increased from 2 lakh crore rupees per year in the UPA regime to 12 lakh crore rupees per year during the present regime. So this has been also a massive progress that we have seen. It has also contributed to what we called as national security, defense modernization, whether it is the appointment of Chief of Defense Staff position or Agniveer scheme or theoretization of the Indian Army, it has been done in this regard. We have entered into bilateral partnerships like that of I2U2, multilateral partnership like that of I2U2, IMEC, Quad, etc. All of these steps have been taken. A decisive foreign policy has also been a typical feature of Narendra Modi's government or Narendra Modi's tenure, that we have a decisive foreign policy where we can basically partner with multiple countries and we can increase our partnership there. But the stability has its own risk. Stability also comes with risk. Why stability comes with a risk? Because stability can be deteriorated under circumstances into authoritarianism. And these have been the allegations of the opposition today also. So we have to see how stability can threaten itself, or stability comes with its own risk. First is over-centralization. Over-centralization, now there have been reports, there have been allegations that everything that is governed in the present regime of NDA, it is being governed by the PMO or by the CMO, that is the Prime Minister office or the CM office. So too much centralization happens, and which basically goes against the principle of decentralization. So this is a thing that is happening or that can happen. So this is a risk of overstability. Then opposition. What has happened in the past 10 years or 12 years of Modi's regime, that the opposition due to their own inefficiency, and sometimes, as per the allegations of the opposition, government is also trying to bring down the opposition, in the sense they are not giving them adequate space. Whether these are the allegations on election commission, or whether if we see the example of PRS, if we quote the example of PRS, that is the government website, and when we quote the PRS and when we see the data, so we see that the parliamentary functioning has declined in the recent years. The level of parliamentary functioning has declined in the recent years. So what does this highlight? This highlights that the parliament efficiency is declining, and parliament is temple of democracy, where debate and discussions are must. So for example, I'll give you a straight out fact that in the previous regime, that is between 2019 and 2024, 95% of the bills that were introduced in Rajya Sabha were passed in less than 10 hours of discussion. The average discussion was less than 10 hours. Or if we can see the example of the bills that are referred to the departmental standing committees or parliamentary standing committees have also declined. So there is some kind of opposition, and there is some truth to the opposition also, that the opposition is getting weak. Democracy is not strong by the numbers. Democracy is strong by the deliberation, debate and discussion, and for which a strong opposition is needed. More stronger the opposition, more stronger will be the democracy also. So stability needs to be balanced with opposition, or what we called as challenge coming from debate and discussion of democracy. Then it can also lead to overconfidence because of the continuous support that the people are giving to the Narendra Modi's government. There can also be problem of overconfidence, in which the feedback mechanism can dull over time, and the corrective measures can also dull over time. So this is another area which we have seen that the power problem can arise due to excessive stability, because there can be a creation of issue where the government can be lackluster in their approach on implementing the reform, because they need that, because they believe that they enjoy the support from the people, and continuous election victories can further increase this idea in the ruling government. Then it has also created federal tension, where confrontationist form of federalism is emerging in the recent time. So there is a confrontationist federalism that is also emerging in the recent time. Why? Because there is a dispute between the center and the states. So we need to also keep a tab that the center's excessive dominance of Prime Minister Modi or any other government tomorrow that might be sitting in the power should not over-centralize the power, or should not distribute or disturb the federal structure. Federalism is a part of basic structure. So the states should not be squeezed. The states should not be reduced to just glorified municipalities. States government should not be reduced. States are an important part of our federal structure. They are important federal units, and federalism should thus be protected because it is also part of our basic structure. But presently, opposition states particularly highlight that they have been not treated at the same pedestal with that of the states ruled by the ruling government. Also, if you see the allegations by the southern states, you will see that the southern states allege that they are being discriminated in front of the states of the north. So this is also a thing that needs to be seen. And dominance is not equal to what we call as competition. Dominance should not be there. There should be competition. There should not be dominance. There should not be dominance of one political party, because one political party, if it will dominate, it sometimes will lead to gradation, or what we call as saturation of our best interest, or saturation of the policies, because they will believe that we are being supported by the people no matter what. So these things need to be balanced. So what can we use? Stable governments build the runway, but stable institutions decide whether democracy stays airborne. So stable government, yes, we have been a stable government since last 12 years. So it has built the runway for India's development. But for our plane, for our great story to stay airborne, what do we need? We need stable institutions. The institutions should also be equally strong. They should also be equally strong along with the government. So what can we do? Which is basically making sure that we enable the sufficient conditions where the opposition can also provide the check. They can also play the role of constructive criticism. We should basically make sure that the institutions are more important than the individuals. If there is any doubt over the credibility of the institutions, that the institutions are not impartial, there should be things that should restore the faith in the institution. For example, suppose say that of election commission. If there are any allegations against election commission, they should be removed. Election commission should give out the clarity such that there is no problem in the process or the institution themselves. Any institutions are more important than any individual per se. And lastly, there is a need to balance There is a need to balance a strike between development, growth, stability, and that of opposition or responsibility and accountability. Accountability and responsibility are on one hand, and balance and growth are on the other hand. So what we have seen in the last 12 years, if we can conclude, what we have seen in the last 12 years, yes, we have a stable government. Yes, we have introduced some dramatic policy reforms that were not implementable before and that were much needed for the economic development. Tremendous economic investment has happened, tremendous stability has been there, and the pressures of coalition have been effectively reduced. But at the same time, there are certain instances where there are some allegations by the opposition parties and some allegations on the role played by the institutions. These needs to be checked in. If these are checked in, I think that there will be massive development that will be possible for India in the coming years, and we will surely realize the ideals or the long-term planning that we have ensured for ourselves in 2047. That is the aim of Viksit Bharat. So I hope this you have understood what we have achieved through this, what is stability and how stability basically boosts the governance in India. We have also seen that. Thank you.